At first, it looked like another carefully choreographed royal celebration, the kind of event designed to showcase stability, tradition, and confidence. Yet within hours, a single video clip began spreading across social media, attracting millions of views and sparking a conversation that Buckingham Palace could never have anticipated. What many expected to be a triumphant moment for Catherine, Princess of Wales, quickly transformed into something far more complicated. And as public reactions intensified, an uncomfortable question started emerging. Has something fundamentally changed in the relationship between the royal family and the... For years, one of the greatest strengths of the British monarchy has been its ability to weather storms that would cripple almost any other public institution. Scandals have come and gone. Governments have risen and fallen. Economic crises have shaken entire generations. Yet somehow the institutions surrounding King Charles III, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, has always managed to survive by relying on a formula that seemed almost impossible to break. The monarchy would remain above politics, maintain its traditions, and trust that public affection would eventually return. But what if that formula is no longer working? That is the question many royal observers have been asking after recent developments surrounding Prince William and Kate Middleton, developments that have generated intense discussion across both traditional media and social platforms. While supporters of the monarchy continue to argue that the royal family remains enormously popular, others believe recent events reveal something deeper taking place beneath the surface. And this is where the story becomes much more interesting. The discussion is no longer focused solely on individual members of the royal family. Instead, a growing number of commentators are asking whether public frustration is increasingly directed toward the institution itself rather than any specific royal figure. That distinction may sound subtle, but for Buckingham Palace, it could represent an enormous challenge. Think about it for a moment. If criticism focuses on one royal family member, then a solution is relatively straightforward. More public engagements can be arranged. Positive media coverage can be encouraged. Charitable initiatives can receive additional attention. Over time, public perception can improve. But what happens when criticism is aimed at the institution rather than the individual? That question has become impossible to ignore. Recent public discussions have increasingly centered around issues that extend far beyond Catherine, Princess of Wales, or Prince William as people. Conversations have shifted toward broader concerns involving economic inequality, public spending, privilege, and the role of hereditary institutions in modern society. Whether those criticisms are fair or unfair is almost beside the point. The fact that they're being discussed so openly is what makes this development noteworthy. And if you are watching right now, let me ask you something. Do you believe public opinion toward the royal family is genuinely changing, or do you think social media simply amplifies a vocal minority? Let me know in the comments, because this question sits at the center of everything that follows. What makes the situation especially significant is timing. Over the past several years, the royal family has faced one challenge after another. The ongoing tensions involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle generated headlines across the world. Questions surrounding public trust have repeatedly emerged. Debates about the future of the monarchy have become increasingly common. Meanwhile, economic pressures affecting ordinary families have created an environment where displays of wealth are often viewed very differently than they might have been a decade ago. In that environment, every public appearance carries greater significance. Every photograph receives more scrutiny. Every public reaction is analyzed more intensely. And every perceived misstep travels faster than ever before. For Prince William, the future king, this presents a particularly difficult challenge because Prince William represents not only the current state of the monarchy, but also its future direction. Whenever Prince William appears at a major event, many people are not simply evaluating the individual. They are evaluating the future of the institution itself. That places enormous pressure on every appearance, every statement, and every public interaction. Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, occupies a unique position within the royal family. For many years, Kate Middleton has consistently ranked among the most popular members of the monarchy. Royal supporters frequently point to Catherine, Princess of Wales, as one of the institution's greatest assets because Kate Middleton often projects stability, professionalism, and dedication to royal duty, which makes recent reactions even more surprising. If public conversations are becoming more critical even toward figures traditionally viewed positively, then Buckingham Palace may be confronting a challenge that extends far beyond any single controversy. And yet another question soon emerges. Have palace advisors fully recognized the extent of this shift? Because some analysts believe the monarchy continues to rely on strategies developed during a completely different media era. An era before viral clips could reach millions of viewers within hours. An era before every public appearance became instant global content. An era before online audiences began shaping narratives as rapidly as traditional news organizations. If that assessment is correct, then the challenge facing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, may not simply be about popularity. It may be about adapting to an entirely new information landscape. The modern public does not consume royal news the same way previous generations did. Audiences now interpret events through countless competing narratives, each spreading simultaneously across different platforms. Controlling public perception has become dramatically more difficult, and managing public trust may be harder than at any point in recent royal history. So, where does this leave Prince William and Kate Middleton? That remains the central mystery. Because while Buckingham Palace continues projecting confidence and continuity, questions continue growing louder behind the scenes. Questions about relevance. Questions about public sentiment. Questions about the future relationship between the monarchy and the people it serves. And perhaps most importantly, questions about whether recent developments represent a temporary controversy or the beginning of something much larger. Before we move to the next chapter, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because the next development would raise even more questions about public trust, palace strategy, and why some royal commentators believe the biggest challenge facing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, has only just begun. And what happened next would make the entire conversation far more complicated than anyone expected. As the conversation surrounding Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, continued to grow, another uncomfortable reality started becoming impossible for royal commentators to ignore. The issue was no longer simply whether a particular public appearance had gone well or badly. The deeper concern was whether Buckingham Palace was beginning to lose control of the narrative itself. For generations, the royal family operated in a media environment that was largely predictable. Newspapers set the agenda. Television networks controlled the images the public saw. Palace communications teams could respond to criticism at a measured pace because information moved relatively slowly. Even major controversies often took days or weeks to fully develop. That world no longer exists. Today, a single video can circle the globe within minutes, generating millions of views before palace advisors have even drafted a response. Public opinion now forms in real time, and perhaps more importantly, it forms without waiting for official explanations. And this is where the challenge facing Prince William becomes especially significant. As the future king, Prince William is expected to embody stability and continuity. Yet modern audiences increasingly expect transparency, accessibility, and direct communication. Those expectations often conflict with the traditional royal approach, which relies heavily on silence, restraint, and carefully managed appearances. Can those two worlds realistically coexist? That question has become increasingly important because many observers believe younger audiences evaluate public figures very differently than previous generations did. Instead of accepting official narratives at face value, modern audiences often search for inconsistencies, compare competing accounts, and analyze every available detail. As a result, public trust has become far more difficult to maintain. Consider how quickly conversations now evolve. A single image becomes a trending topic. A brief public appearance sparks thousands of interpretations. An expression captured by a camera lens becomes the subject of endless debate across social media platforms. Whether those interpretations are accurate is often secondary. The conversation itself becomes the story. And once a particular narrative gains momentum, reversing it becomes extraordinarily difficult. This may help explain why recent discussions involving Catherine, Princess of Wales, have attracted so much attention. For years, Kate Middleton was widely viewed as one of the monarchy's most reliable public assets. Catherine, Princess of Wales, rarely generated controversy, maintained a disciplined public image, and consistently projected an appearance of professionalism. Yet even that reputation is now being examined more intensely than before.
Why?
Because public expectations have changed. Many people no longer judge institutions solely on ceremonial appearances or symbolic gestures. Increasingly, they want authenticity. They want accountability. They want evidence that public figures understand the challenges facing ordinary citizens. And this is where another complication emerges. The royal family exists in a uniquely difficult position because the institution is built upon tradition, hierarchy, and symbolism. Those qualities help sustain the monarchy for centuries. However, some critics now argue that those same qualities create a growing disconnect between royal life and everyday reality. Whether that perception is justified or not, it continues gaining attention. Let me ask you something. Do you think the monarchy should adapt more aggressively to modern expectations, or do you believe preserving tradition remains its most important responsibility? The answer may determine how future generations view the institution. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace faces an increasingly delicate balancing act. Move too quickly toward modernization, and traditional supporters may feel that the monarchy is abandoning the very qualities that make it unique. Move too slowly, and critics may argue that the institution has become disconnected from the society it serves. Finding the right balance is far easier said than done. For Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, this challenge becomes even more personal because many people see them as the bridge between the monarchy's past and its future. Public expectations placed upon Prince William are enormous. Supporters hope Prince William can modernize the institution while preserving its core identity. Critics question whether meaningful change is even possible within such an ancient system. And every public appearance now takes place against that backdrop. Every event becomes more than an event. Every appearance becomes a test. Every public reaction becomes a potential indicator of larger trends. That pressure would be difficult for any public figure to manage. For the future king and future queen, the stakes are even higher because the long-term survival of the institution may depend upon how successfully they navigate this changing landscape. Yet despite all the speculation, one crucial question remains unanswered. Are these recent controversies simply temporary challenges that will eventually fade from public memory, or are they early signs of a much deeper shift in how the public views the royal family itself? Because if public attitudes are genuinely evolving, then Buckingham Palace may soon face decisions far more difficult than managing a single news cycle. And as we move forward, another development would raise even more questions about loyalty, public trust, and whether the monarchy's traditional playbook is still capable of handling the challenges of a very different era. If the challenges facing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were limited to media scrutiny alone, Buckingham Palace might already have a roadmap for recovery. Public relations setbacks come and go. Headlines eventually fade. New stories replace old ones. But what has many royal observers paying close attention right now is the possibility that something far more significant may be taking shape beneath the surface. Because at the center of this entire debate lies a question that strikes at the heart of the monarchy itself. What happens when public frustration becomes stronger than public fascination? For decades, the royal family benefited from a unique relationship with the British public. Even people who questioned the institution often remained captivated by it. Critics watched royal weddings. Skeptics followed royal tours. Controversies generated enormous attention because, regardless of opinion, people remained emotionally invested in the story. But some commentators believe that dynamic may be evolving. And if that assessment proves accurate, the implications for Prince William could be enormous. The reason is simple. A monarchy can survive criticism. A monarchy can survive scandals. A monarchy can survive unpopular decisions. What becomes much harder to survive is widespread indifference or growing resentment. That distinction matters because institutions ultimately rely upon public legitimacy. The British monarchy does not govern through political power in the traditional sense. Instead, the institution depends heavily upon public goodwill, cultural significance, and a shared belief that it continues to serve a meaningful role in national life. When those foundations remain strong, temporary controversies rarely cause lasting damage. When those foundations weaken, even relatively small incidents can trigger much larger conversations. And that appears to be exactly what some royal analysts are now observing. The discussion surrounding Prince William and Kate Middleton has increasingly become a discussion about symbolism. Not just what Prince William does. Not just what Catherine, Princess of Wales, says. But what the royal family represents. That shift changes everything. Because symbols operate differently from individuals. An individual can apologize. An individual can explain. An individual can clarify intentions. A symbol is interpreted by millions of people simultaneously, each bringing their own experiences, frustrations, and expectations. And right now, many people appear to be interpreting royal symbolism through the lens of economic uncertainty, political division, and social change. Whether fair or unfair, that reality creates enormous challenges for Buckingham Palace. Think about how differently public displays of wealth are viewed today compared with previous generations. Events once celebrated primarily as national traditions are now often examined through entirely different perspectives. Ceremonial pageantry that once inspired admiration can sometimes prompt questions about cost, relevance, and priorities. Again, this does not mean those criticisms are universally accepted. Far from it. Millions continue supporting the monarchy and view royal ceremonies as an essential part of Britain's cultural identity. But the growing intensity of the debate itself is what makes this moment noteworthy. And here's a question for you. Do you believe royal traditions remain as important today as they were 20 years ago, or do you think public expectations have fundamentally changed? That question may help explain why Prince William faces such a complicated future. Unlike King Charles III, whose role is largely defined by continuity, Prince William increasingly represents possibility. Supporters see Prince William as the royal figure most capable of guiding the monarchy into a new era. Critics argue that meaningful modernization remains difficult within a system built upon centuries of tradition. Those competing expectations place Prince William in an extraordinarily difficult position. Every decision carries risks. Every adjustment invites criticism from traditionalists. Every refusal to adapt invites criticism from reformers. Finding a path that satisfies both groups may be impossible. And Catherine, Princess of Wales, faces similar pressures. For years, Kate Middleton earned praise for maintaining remarkable discipline under intense public scrutiny. Catherine, Princess of Wales, became known for avoiding unnecessary controversy while steadily building public support through charitable work and official engagements. Yet recent developments suggest even that carefully constructed reputation may not provide complete protection against larger institutional questions.
Why?
Because once public conversations move beyond personalities and toward broader concerns about the monarchy itself, individual popularity becomes less influential. In other words, Prince William and Kate Middleton may find themselves confronting challenges that personal approval ratings alone cannot solve. That realization may be one of the most significant developments unfolding behind the scenes. The future king and future queen are not merely managing their own public images. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are increasingly being asked to defend the relevance of an institution that many people are reassessing in real time. That is an entirely different challenge, and perhaps an even more difficult one. Because while public relations campaigns can improve perceptions of individuals, they cannot easily answer deeper questions about purpose, relevance, and public trust. Those questions require something more substantial, something more convincing, something capable of reconnecting tradition with modern expectations. Whether Buckingham Palace has found that answer remains unclear. But as debates continue growing louder and public conversations become increasingly polarized, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. The challenges facing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, may no longer be about managing isolated controversies. They may be about navigating a turning point in how the royal family is viewed by an increasingly skeptical and rapidly changing world. And if that is true, then the next development could reveal whether the monarchy still possesses the adaptability needed to preserve public confidence, or whether even bigger challenges are waiting just around the corner. While public debates continue surrounding Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, another question has quietly begun emerging among royal commentators, and it may be the most important question of all. What happens if the monarchy's biggest challenge is not a scandal, not a controversial headline, and not even declining popularity? What happens if the real challenge is a growing gap between public expectations and royal reality? Because when many people think about the future of the monarchy, they often focus on personalities. They focus on King Charles III. They focus on Prince William. They focus on Kate Middleton. They focus on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Yet history suggests that institutions rarely rise or fall because of a single individual. Instead, institutions survive when they successfully adapt to changing public expectations. And that is where the conversation becomes far more complicated. For much of modern history, the British monarchy occupied a unique position within national life. The royal family represented continuity during uncertain times. Governments changed. Prime ministers came and went. Economic conditions improved and deteriorated. Through all of it, Buckingham Palace remained a symbol of permanence. That permanence became one of the institution's greatest strengths. But some analysts now argue that permanence can become a weakness if it creates the appearance of being disconnected from contemporary realities. And that concern is becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. Across Britain and beyond, many ordinary families continue facing financial pressures, housing concerns, healthcare challenges, and uncertainty about the future. Against that backdrop, images of royal ceremonies, palace events, and traditional displays of grandeur are often interpreted very differently than they were a generation ago. Supporters view these traditions as an essential part of Britain's identity. Critics sometimes view them as evidence of a widening disconnect. The fact that both perspectives exist simultaneously is precisely why the debate has become so intense. And let me ask you something. Can an institution built on centuries of tradition truly modernize without losing the very qualities that make it unique? That question may ultimately determine the future of the monarchy more than any individual controversy ever could. For Prince William, the challenge is especially significant because the future king stands at the intersection of two very different worlds. On one side is the traditional monarchy, built upon ceremony, symbolism, and continuity. On the other side is a modern society increasingly demanding transparency, accessibility, and accountability from public figures. Prince William must somehow satisfy both expectations. That is not an easy task. In fact, some royal historians argue it may be one of the most difficult balancing acts faced by any future monarch in recent history. Because every decision Prince William makes will inevitably be scrutinized through competing lenses. If Prince William embraces modernization, critics from within traditional circles may argue that the institution is abandoning its heritage. If Prince William prioritizes tradition, others may claim the monarchy is refusing to evolve. Either way, criticism is almost guaranteed. And Catherine, Princess of Wales, finds herself navigating a similarly challenging landscape. For years, Kate Middleton carefully cultivated an image of stability, dedication, and professionalism. Many royal supporters regard Catherine, Princess of Wales, as one of the most effective members of the royal family precisely because Kate Middleton rarely allows public controversy to overshadow royal duties. Yet even that approach faces new challenges in today's media environment. The reason is simple. Modern audiences often expect direct communication. They expect public figures to explain themselves. They expect immediate responses. The monarchy traditionally operates very differently. Buckingham Palace has historically relied upon restraint, patience, and silence during periods of controversy. That strategy worked remarkably well for decades. But does it still work today? That remains one of the biggest unanswered questions. Because silence in a traditional media environment often projected dignity. Silence in a social media environment can sometimes create a vacuum that others quickly fill with speculation. And once speculation begins spreading, controlling the narrative becomes dramatically more difficult. This is why recent developments have attracted so much attention among royal observers. The issue is no longer limited to whether Prince William and Kate Middleton remain personally popular. The larger issue is whether the communication strategies that served previous generations remain effective in a completely transformed media landscape. That challenge extends far beyond any single event. It extends far beyond any individual controversy. It touches the future direction of the institution itself. And there is another layer that makes this situation even more significant. Unlike many public figures, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, cannot easily reinvent themselves. Politicians can launch new campaigns. Celebrities can rebrand their public image. Business leaders can change strategies. The monarchy moves much more slowly. Its power comes from continuity. Its legitimacy comes from tradition. Its identity comes from stability. Those strengths have protected the institution for generations. But they can also limit flexibility during periods of rapid change. And that is precisely why some commentators believe the coming years could prove decisive. Because eventually the royal family may be forced to answer a difficult question. How much change is necessary to remain relevant, and how much change is too much? Finding the answer will not be easy. For Prince William, the future king, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, the answer may define their entire legacy. And as new developments continue unfolding, another even more sensitive issue is beginning to emerge behind palace walls, one that could shape public trust, royal unity, and the future of the monarchy in ways few people anticipated. As the debate surrounding Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues to intensify, perhaps the most uncomfortable reality for Buckingham Palace is that there may not be a quick solution to any of it. For decades, the monarchy has survived by doing what it has always done best: waiting, enduring, remaining calm while storms pass overhead. Usually that strategy worked. Usually public attention shifted elsewhere. Usually controversies faded. But what if this time is different? That possibility is what has many royal watchers paying close attention right now. Because the concerns being raised today are not centered around one headline, one speech, one appearance, or even one member of the royal family. Instead, the questions now being asked cut much deeper. Questions about relevance. Questions about accountability. Questions about public trust. And, perhaps most significantly, questions about whether the institution still understands the people whose support ultimately sustains it. That is not the kind of challenge that disappears after a few positive news cycles. And this is where Prince William may find himself facing the greatest test of his public life. For years, Prince William has been viewed as the monarchy's safest pair of hands. Many supporters believe Prince William possesses the temperament, discipline, and sense of duty required to guide the institution through an increasingly uncertain future. Yet even strong leadership cannot solve problems that are not fully understood. And some critics argue that Buckingham Palace still appears to be treating modern public frustration as a temporary communications problem rather than a deeper societal shift. If that assessment is accurate, the consequences could be significant. Because public attitudes rarely change overnight. They evolve gradually, almost invisibly at first. A controversial headline here, a difficult conversation there, a growing sense of skepticism that slowly spreads through public discourse. Then one day, people realize the conversation has fundamentally changed. Could that be what is happening now? Many commentators believe that possibility deserves serious consideration. After all, institutions often struggle to recognize turning points while they are actually happening. Looking back, historical shifts seem obvious. Living through them is much more complicated. And if you think about it, history is filled with examples of powerful institutions assuming public support would remain permanent, only to discover that public expectations had evolved far more quickly than anyone anticipated. That is why recent discussions surrounding Prince William and Kate Middleton may be attracting so much attention. Not because every criticism is necessarily valid. Not because every social media trend accurately reflects public opinion. but because the broader conversation appears to be moving in a direction that few palace strategists would have welcomed. And there is another factor that cannot be ignored. The future of the monarchy does not depend solely upon today's public opinion. It depends upon future generations. Younger audiences consume information differently. They engage with institutions differently. They question authority differently. Many younger citizens feel less emotionally connected to traditional institutions than previous generations did. That reality presents both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, still have time to shape how future generations view the monarchy. The challenge is that earning trust from younger audiences may require approaches very different from those that succeeded in the past. And that brings us back to the central question. Can the monarchy evolve quickly enough to remain relevant while preserving the traditions that define its identity? Because if Prince William modernizes too aggressively, some supporters may fear the institution is losing its unique character. If Prince William resists change, critics may argue the institution is becoming increasingly disconnected from modern society. Finding the balance between those competing pressures may become the defining mission of Prince William's future reign. Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, continues occupying a particularly difficult position. Kate Middleton remains one of the most recognized women in the world. Every appearance is analyzed. Every expression is examined. Every public interaction becomes a headline. Yet despite that extraordinary visibility, Catherine, Princess of Wales, often has very little opportunity to directly address the narratives surrounding her. That reality would be challenging for anyone, especially when public conversations become increasingly polarized. And as debates continue unfolding, Buckingham Palace faces a difficult truth. Public trust is far easier to lose than it is to rebuild. Once skepticism takes root, every future event is viewed through a different lens. Every public appearance becomes another test. Every decision becomes another opportunity for critics and supporters alike to reinforce their existing beliefs. That is why the months ahead could prove so important. Because the conversation surrounding Prince William and Kate Middleton is no longer simply about popularity. It is about perception. It is about relevance. It is about the future direction of one of the world's oldest institutions. And right now, nobody can say with certainty how that story will end. OUTRO. So where does all of this leave Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales? Are recent developments simply another temporary challenge that the royal family will eventually overcome, just as it has overcome countless controversies throughout history? Or are these events pointing towards something much larger, a deeper shift in public attitudes that Buckingham Palace can no longer afford to ignore? That remains the question at the heart of this entire story. One interpretation suggests the monarchy is simply experiencing another difficult period and that public support will ultimately recover. Another interpretation suggests that the institution may be entering a new era, one in which traditional approaches no longer guarantee traditional results. Only time will reveal which interpretation proves correct. But one thing is certain. The conversation surrounding Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the future of the royal family is far from over. And the developments we have seen so far may be only the beginning. What do you think? Do you believe Prince William and Kate Middleton can successfully guide the monarchy through these growing challenges? Or do you think the institution faces a much bigger problem than Buckingham Palace is willing to acknowledge? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this is one of the most important royal debates unfolding right now. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the royal family, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for future discussions as we continue following every major development surrounding Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Buckingham Palace, and the future of the monarchy itself. Because the next chapter of this story may be even more surprising than the one we discussed today.